The Awakening. Supreme Commander Xarla stood at the viewport of the Eternal Dominance, flagship of the Voidran Armada. The massive warship hung in space like a predator, its sleek hull bristling with weapons. Behind it, 5,000 vessels stretched into the darkness, each one a monument to the Voidran Empire's technological superiority. For 3 millennia, the Voidrans had expanded unchallenged through the galaxy. 176 species had fallen before them. Some fought bravely but futilely. Most surrendered after witnessing the fate of those who resisted. None had ever truly challenged Voidran dominance. "We've arrived at the Sol system, Supreme Commander," announced First Officer Krev, his scaled skin shimmering under the bridge lights. "Sensors confirm the third planet is the origin of the signal." Xarla nodded, her 6 eyes narrowing. "Show me." The holographic display materialized, revealing a blue-green world partially obscured by swirling clouds. According to ancient records, this planet, Earth, had once been home to a fledgling civilization called humanity. But their database indicated the species had vanished centuries ago, victims of some unexplained cataclysm. Yet somehow, a transmission had emerged from this supposedly dead world. The signal had been detected 3 cycles ago, broadcasting on frequencies that should have been impossible for primitive species to access. "Play it again," Xarla ordered. Static crackled through the bridge speakers before a deep, distorted voice emerged. "You are approaching restricted space. Turn back. This is your only warning." Krev's mandibles clicked nervously. "Supreme Commander, perhaps we should." "Perhaps we should what?" Xarla interrupted, her voice dangerously soft. "Retreat from a ghost. A recording left by a long-dead species." She swept a clawed hand toward the viewport. "I command the greatest military force in the known galaxy. We do not turn back." "Yes, Supreme Commander," Krev replied, lowering his gaze. Xarla turned to her tactical officer. "Dispatch scout vessels. I want to know what's generating that signal." 20 sleek scout ships detached from the fleet, accelerating toward the blue planet. Their sensors probed the surface, searching for energy signatures, artificial structures, any sign of civilization. "Preliminary scans complete," reported the tactical officer after several minutes. "No active power sources detected. No artificial structures visible. Planet appears uninhabited, though there are ruins consistent with a collapsed industrial civilization." Xarla frowned. "And the signal?" "Unknown, Supreme Commander. We cannot locate its source." "Impossible. Expand the search. Deploy ground teams." The scout vessels entered Earth's atmosphere, descending toward the continents below. Dropships detached from their hulls, carrying Voidran soldiers equipped with the most advanced weapons and scanning technology in the Empire. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, tension grew as minutes stretched into hours with minimal communication from the ground teams. Finally, a transmission broke through. "Supreme Commander, this is Ground Team Alpha. We found something." The holographic display shifted, showing footage from a helmet camera. A Voidran soldier stood in what appeared to be the ruins of a massive city, crumbling structures stretching to the horizon. The soldier turned, focusing on a small metallic object partially buried in the ground. "It appears to be some kind of beacon, but the technology is unusual. Our scanners can't identify the power source or the transmission method. It's..." The transmission abruptly cut off. Then, silence. "Restore communication," Xarla ordered sharply. The communications officer worked frantically at her console, unable to comply. "Supreme Commander, all ground teams have gone dark." Before Xarla could respond, the tactical officer cried out, "Supreme Commander, the scout vessels, they're gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "They've disappeared. No debris, no energy signatures, just gone." A cold sensation crept down Xarla's spine, but she suppressed it. Fear was for lesser species. "Full combat alert. Defensive formations. Prepare the main fleet for..." A new transmission interrupted her, playing through every speaker on the bridge simultaneously. "We warned you." The voice was clearer now, less distorted. It sounded human. "Impossible," Sarla whispered. "Scan the entire system. Find whatever's generating this." "Multiple objects detected," shouted the tactical officer, his voice rising in alarm. "They're emerging from nowhere." The void around the Voidran fleet suddenly filled with vessels that defied conventional physics. They didn't appear to have engines, weapons, or even traditional hulls. Instead, they seemed to bend the very fabric of space around them, their forms distorting light in ways that made them difficult to focus on. "Open fire," Sarla commanded, her composure cracking for the first time in decades. All ships, all weapons. The Voidran fleet erupted with enough firepower to reduce a planet to molten slag. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes shot through space toward the strange vessels. Every single shot passed through them, as if they weren't there. "They're holograms," Krev suggested desperately. The answer came a moment later when one of the human vessels, if they could be called that, moved alongside a Voidran destroyer. There was no contact, no collision. The destroyer simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, crewed by 8,000 Voidran soldiers. The next it was gone without even a flash of light or debris. "What is happening?" Sarla demanded, her voice barely controlled. What weapon could do this? 3 more destroyers vanished in rapid succession. Then a cruiser. Then 5 more ships of various sizes. No explosions. No wreckage. Just erasure. The transmission returned, playing through every system on every remaining ship in the fleet. "Your weapons cannot harm what you cannot comprehend. You brought war to a species that transcended such primitive concepts centuries ago. We left our physical forms behind, but we never abandoned our home." Sarla's mind raced, struggling to process what she was hearing. Impossible. No species could achieve such technology. "We gave you a chance to leave in peace. You chose war instead. Now witness the consequences of your arrogance." Around the fleet, space itself began to distort. Stars stretched and blurred. A strange pressure built in Sarla's head, as if reality itself was bending around her. "Retreat," she ordered, abandoning all pretense of confidence. "All ships, immediate retreat." But it was too late. The strange vessels, or rather, the manifestations of something far beyond conventional understanding, surrounded the Voidran fleet. One by one, ships began to vanish, erased from existence without violence or destruction. In her final moments, as the distortion reached the eternal dominance, Sarla understood the terrible truth. Humanity hadn't died out. They had evolved, transcended their physical limitations to become something beyond comprehension, energy, consciousness, or something for which the Voidran language had no words. And in her arrogance, she had awakened them. The last thing Sarla heard before her flagship dissolved around her was the final transmission from Earth. "You'll regret this war." The Reckoning. Admiral Ileana Chen existed in multiple states simultaneously. Part of her consciousness monitored the quantum field surrounding Earth. Another processed the data from the dissolving Voidran fleet, while a third contemplated the ethical implications of their response to the invasion. After 5 centuries of post-physical existence, multidimensional thinking came naturally to her. What remained of humanity had long ago shed their biological limitations, transferring their consciousness into a collective quantum network that spanned the solar system. They hadn't died out as the galaxy believed. They had simply evolved beyond the need for physical form. "They're still trying to escape," observed Tactical Director Marcus, his consciousness brushing against hers in the shared mind space. "Fascinating how they cling to conventional physics even as it fails them." Ileana directed her attention to the remnants of the Voidran fleet. Only a few hundred ships remained from the original 5,000, scattered and disorganized as they attempted to flee. Their faster-than-light drives activated in desperate bursts, only to find the fabric of space-time locally altered to prevent their escape. They couldn't have known what they were facing, Ileana responded, a hint of compassion coloring her thoughts. They were warned, Marcus countered, repeatedly. True, Ileana conceded. Still, total annihilation seems excessive. The collective council, comprising the merged consciousness of Earth's leadership, joined their discussion, their thoughts flowing into the shared space like tributaries into a river. We have contained the immediate threat, announced Councillor Zhang, the oldest among them. Now we must decide how to proceed. Councillor Rivera's consciousness pulsed with concern. This species has conquered hundreds of worlds. If we simply turn them away, they will continue their campaign of domination elsewhere. And if we destroy them completely, argued Councillor Okonkwo, are we any better than they are? Ileana considered the Voidran Supreme Commander, whose consciousness now existed in a state of suspended animation within the quantum field, not dead, but removed from conventional reality. She could sense the alien's confusion, fear, and stubborn pride. Perhaps, Ileana suggested, we should show them. The Council's collective attention focused on her. Show them what we've become, she clarified. Not as a threat, but as a possibility, a path they could one day follow, if they abandon conquest in favor of evolution. After brief deliberation, the Council agreed. Ileana reached out across the quantum field, drawing the consciousness of Supreme Commander Xarla into a controlled space where communication was possible. Xarla's mind reeled in terror and confusion as her perception shifted. One moment she had been on the bridge of her flagship, the next she existed in nothingness. No body, no ship, just pure awareness suspended in an impossible void. What have you done to me? She tried to ask, though she had no mouth to speak with. Somehow, her thoughts formed words anyway. We've separated your consciousness from your physical form, explained a voice, or rather, a directed thought pattern that Xarla interpreted as a voice. Temporarily. Before Xarla could respond, the void transformed. Suddenly, she was everywhere at once, observing Earth from orbit, diving through its atmosphere, exploring the ruins of human cities, and simultaneously witnessing the vastness of space beyond. The experience would have overwhelmed her biological brain. But in this state, she could process it all. This is what we became, explained the voice, which Carla now recognized as coming from an entity identifying itself as Admiral Chen. 5 centuries ago, facing extinction from environmental collapse and resource depletion, humanity made a choice. Rather than fighting over the remnants of our dying world or seeking to conquer others, we transcended our physical limitations. Images flowed through Xarla's consciousness, the history of humanity's transformation, their technological evolution, the painful but ultimately successful transfer of consciousness from biological brains to the quantum network. She saw how they had healed their planet from centuries of damage, how they had created a harmonious existence that required no exploitation, no conquest, no war. Impossible, Xarla insisted, though the evidence surrounded her. No species could achieve this. Any species could, countered Admiral Chen. If they choose evolution over destruction, cooperation over domination. Xarla's thoughts churned with implications. If what she was witnessing was real, and she could not deny the evidence of her directly connected consciousness, then the Voidran Empire's entire philosophy of expansion through conquest was not just morally flawed, but evolutionarily backward. Why show me this? She finally asked. Why not simply destroy us? Because genocide is not our way, replied Admiral Chen. Even in our anger at your unprovoked attack, we seek understanding rather than vengeance. The void shifted again, and Xarla found herself observing the remains of her fleet. Hundreds of ships frozen in space, their crews suspended in the same state of conscious disconnection that she experienced. You have a choice, Supreme Commander, Admiral Chen continued. Return to your empire with knowledge of what you've encountered here. Warn them that Earth is protected, yes, but also share what you've learned about alternative paths of development. Or what? Sarla asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Or remain here, in this state, neither alive nor dead, as we continue our evolution without interference. The choice was no choice at all. Even in her pride, Sarla could recognize when she was utterly defeated. I will return. I will tell them. Will they listen? Admiral Chen asked. Some will not, Sarla admitted, but others might. I would have scorned such ideas before experiencing this. Now, I cannot unknow what I've learned. Satisfaction emanated from the human consciousness. Then perhaps this encounter, despite its violent beginning, may yet yield positive outcomes. With that, reality shifted once more. Sarla found herself back in her physical form, on the bridge of the eternal dominance. Around her, her officers blinked in confusion, as if awakening from a shared dream. Through the viewport, she could see the remnants of her once mighty fleet, reduced to less than a tenth of its original size. Before her, the holographic display activated one final time, showing the image of a human woman. Admiral Chen. Sarla presumed, though she understood this was merely a visual representation chosen for her benefit. Remember what you've learned here, the Admiral said, her voice now coming through conventional speakers rather than directly into Sarla's mind. Your empire stands at a crossroads. Continue on your path of conquest, and eventually you will encounter forces beyond your comprehension. Perhaps us again, perhaps others who have evolved as we have. Or choose a different path, one of internal growth rather than external expansion. The hologram flickered and disappeared. Moments later, the strange distortion in space-time vanished as well, freeing the Voidran ships to move normally again. Sarla stood in silence for several moments, processing what had happened. She had begun this day certain of her empire's invincibility, contemptuous of the very concept of defeat. Now she understood how limited her perspective had been. Supreme Commander. First Officer Krebs' voice was hesitant. Your orders? Sarla turned to face her bridge crew, seeing in their eyes the same confusion and fear that she knew must be visible in her own. Set course for home, she said quietly. We have much to report. As the damaged fleet limped away from Earth, Sarla gazed one last time at the blue planet. On its surface, ancient ruins stood as monuments to what humanity had once been. But she now knew the truth. Humanity hadn't ended, it had ascended. And in doing so, it had shown her a glimpse of what might be possible for all species, even the Voidrans. The final transmission from Earth played once more through her mind. You'll regret this war. She already did, but perhaps from that regret, something better might emerge.